You may not know this, but a lot of churches do a lot of things well, especially communication and marketing. We don't really think about that in church world. We don't really use the word marketing, but in order to get the word out that your church is there and available for people to come to, you have to do marketing, whether you call it that or not. And I was a pastor for 15 years. And in those 15 years, I gained some valuable skills in both communication and marketing that serve me in my online business. And I think they can serve you. In this video, I'm going to give you 3 of my top things that I learned when I was a pastor for those 15 years that I still use today that help me do better business and help me grow my business better, help me communicate the message of my business better, and help me market my business better. If you're into that, stick around. My name's Lane. I love to help people grow online businesses that replace their 9-to-5 income without hustle, grind, or having to build a large social media following. And speaking of grind, my espresso machine is broken. I went to Starbucks today, which, hey, I'm a normie. I don't mind Starbucks. It's fine. I know everybody is a Starbucks snob, but I went to Starbucks, I got coffee, and I'm drinking it for this video. Normally I'd have an espresso. Okay, number 1, give people an out and they'll lean in closer. This is a principle that I will attribute to Andy Stanley. He's a pastor at a church in Atlanta, but it's something that we used in the churches that I was a part of because we understood that when you're communicating, whether it's in a sermon or if you're just communicating an idea, the more forceful you are, the more people tend to back away from you. It's threatening. It's kind of like you're not giving me a choice. People want to have autonomy, and they should have autonomy. Free will is what we'd call it maybe in theological terms. People don't want to be compelled to take action. They want to be inspired to take action, not compelled. It's very different. And so one of the things that we would do is we would say, how can we communicate this in such a way that you understand that we're not trying to force you to do anything. We're not trying to guilt you into anything. We're just inviting you into something that you can take part in. Give people an out is the way that you do that. So let me give you an example. One of the chief complaints that people have against churches is all they want is your money. That's all they want. You go to church and, we when I was a pastor, we'd always joke about how anytime we would do a sermon on giving, particularly, which is uncommon, it doesn't happen very much. It's usually always somebody's first time there, right? First time they come to church, maybe first time they've been to any church in a long time. And of course, the day they show up, you're talking about money. So it's very awkward and it's uncomfortable. And so you have to talk to the people who are there that consider that church their church home. And you also have to understand that there are people that don't go to your church and you want to give them an out. You don't want them to feel like they're sitting there and you're just begging them for money because that's not the goal. So one of the things that we would say is we want this for you, not from you. So don't give to this church, give to any church. You don't have to give to our church, just give to any church because we want you to experience what it's like to be generous and see God use your funds to make an impact in the world. So if not this church, go find a church that you believe in and help that church, donate to that church. And by giving that out, it gave people a sense of like, okay, I have permission to not give you anything. Great. Maybe I won't. Maybe I won't give to any church. Maybe I won't give to your church. But at least I don't feel this pressure that I have to give you something for having sat in this pew or chair. This works on a lot of levels in business. When you give people an out, they lean in closer. So what I like to think about is if I'm talking about my course, a course that I'm trying to sell, it may not be for everybody. It just may not. I want it to be for everybody, of course, in the same way that if I'm a pastor and I'm trying to fund the ministries, pay the staff, keep the lights on, and fuel our missions efforts, I need funds to do that. So of course I want people to give, but I don't want them to give if it's not the best place for them to give, if it's not right in their situation. And so in the same way, I want my course to be for everybody because I think it could help everybody and I make more money the more people buy it. But I know that if they feel like compelled or pressured or bullied or manipulated into it, then they are not going to respond to that well. And so one of the ways that I give people an out so that hopefully they'll lean in closer, even if they don't buy, is to say something like, hey, this course may not be for you. Or let's see if this course is the right fit. Or even if you buy this course and it's not the right fit for you, I'll refund your money. In fact, a lot of churches do this where they'll do like a 90-day giving challenge where they'll say, if you give for the next 90 days and you enter this program, anything you give in that 90 days, at the end of that 90 days, if you feel like God didn't work in your life, didn't bless you, that you feel like for whatever reason we didn't use the money well, ask us and we'll refund every penny that you paid us over the last 3 months. And there are churches who do this and do it well. It's a way to give people an out so that they lean in closer and they are more curious about what's going on. I think Justin Welsh does this very well in his course sells. Justin Welsh will say things like, hey, if you want to buy my course, great. If you don't, great. Like he's very hands off about it, like or open handed about it. You can buy it, you can not buy it. It's fine. It's fine by me either way. I even heard him say one time that he does parity pricing so that depending on where you log in, like what country you're in, it will adjust the price based on how much cost of living is in your area. And he said, so somebody in the US is going to pay full price, but somebody in another country might pay a discounted rate. At the end of the day, I don't care. And I thought, wow, that's really like, that is an open-handed, like, I just want this to serve people. Yes, I got to make money. Yes, I'm motivated by that, of course. But I also want people to benefit from this. And I don't want anybody to feel pressure because I know that if I give them an out, they will lean in closer and hear what I'm saying at an even deeper level. So the way I like to do this is I always like to think about who am I talking to that is opting out already? Why can't I just speak to that and give them full permission to do it? Hey, opt out. That's fine. This may not be for you. This may not be the right fit. But if it is the right fit, then it could be amazing. If it is the right fit, it could change your life. If you take this course, your future could be different. So now I've both given them an out, but they've leaned in closer because now I'm showing them an opportunity. And this goes to the second thing that I learned that also has to do with communication. And that is invite people to an opportunity. Don't shame them into action. Now, this is closely related, but I want to talk about how this fits in to church work first, and then I'll talk about where it fits into business. In church work, we would invite people into an opportunity to serve, not shame them into action. The way this looks is shaming them into action looks like this. I'll start with the negative. Shaming people into action is to say, we need people to serve in kids ministry. We got babies lying all over the floor. No one's taking care of them. Why don't you serve? This is the next generation. Do you even care? Shame on you. We can't seem to get any volunteers. We need. You should. Okay? That's how a lot of churches operate. And the way that comes across is really like desperate. It comes across like, oh, most people are like, I don't want to be a part of that. They sound like they're a mess. Right? It sounds like they don't have their stuff together. It sounds like they don't know, like they don't have any idea of like what they're even doing because they can't seem to lead well. That's a leadership problem. Now, that's what it looks like to shame people into action. To invite people into an opportunity is to say, hey, we have an opportunity for you to impact the next generation of young people for Christ. We have an opportunity for you to pour into the next generation, to show them what it looks like to follow Jesus, to allow them to see an example in you, someone other than their parents, to look at and say, wow, this is an adult who's following Jesus and loving their family well, and they seem to care about me. This is great. It's an opportunity to impact the next generation. Not, hey, we got babies lying on the floor. We need someone to hold them during the service. Or we got kids running everywhere. We need someone to lead them. I want to invite you into an opportunity to make an impact. You see the difference, right? One is shame, you should. And one is opportunity, you can do this. We invite you to, if you pass the background checks and all that. Most churches should do a very good job of making sure the people that work with kids are qualified to do so. So anyway, I just want to throw that in there. All right. How does this fit into business? The way this fits into business is a lot of times people will get into a content style business, making videos on YouTube, Instagram, whatever. And their way of communicating to their audience is, if you knew what was good for you, you'd be watching my videos. You'd be subscribing. Half of you 90% of you don't even subscribe. I'm doing all this work and you're not doing nothing. And most people just don't respond to that. It just makes you look desperate. It makes you look like, if you had something compelling to offer, people would be watching, right? And this is one of the things that I wrestle with as well, is like, and this is what I've talked about a lot. I have a multiple six-figure online business with a very small audience. But I also realize that if I were to grow my audience, my income would grow along with it. So I'm trying to grow my audience. Now, I could take this in two different approaches. I could go to you and say, hey, click on my video, please. What is that going to do? You already clicked on my video. By the way, thank you. Glad you're here. Please subscribe. But instead of saying, please click on my video, if I just made a video worth watching, a video worth clicking on, and then a clicked on video worth watching all the way through, and then a course worth buying, and emails worth opening, I no longer have to shame you, right? So in church work, it's like we don't need to tell people you should to get them to serve in kids ministry, for example. We need to show what it looks like. We need to show examples of people who are serving in kids ministry, kids' lives who are being changed, people who are serving in our First Impressions team, helping people find their way onto the parking lot and into a spot and into the building and into a seat, people who may not have gone to church for a long time and they're insecure about, are people going to judge me or whatever. We need people to do that. There's a difference between, gosh, no one will serve in the parking lot, we need you, versus you have an opportunity to be the very first people that someone sees when they pull into the parking lot, and give them a friendly smile and a wave and let them know that this is a safe place that they can be. That is a totally different thing, right? So invite people to an opportunity. Don't shame them into action. In your communication with your audience, what are you inviting them into, and how can you avoid trying to shame people into action? Again, give people an out, they'll lean in closer, invite them into an opportunity, don't shame them into action. And then the third thing has a lot to do with communication. This is something that I learned in my sermons. If you don't know this, I have an entire business called Preaching Donkey where I help pastors communicate better. And I have courses on how to prepare sermons, how to write sermons, how to deliver sermons. It's all over at preachingdonkey.com. One of the key tenets that I teach and that I do when I preach is this: open a loop that only your sermon can solve. Open a loop in people's minds that only your sermon can solve. Now, the direct translation to business is open a loop in people's minds that only your video can solve, that only your content can solve. So in church work, it just happens to be a sermon, but in business, it could be a written piece of content, it could be your podcast, it could be a YouTube episode. When someone clicks on your video, they need to be intrigued. This is the same in the sermon world, we call it tension, building tension. What is the tension? What is going to make people compelled to continue listening? What is going to pique their interest? What is going to get them to say, I have to know what the answer is to this? What is the problem that they're facing? What is the question that they're asking? And how can you tease those questions, tease those problems so that people hear that and go, oh my gosh, yes, I've experienced that. I need to know the answer to that. I have to get the resolution. I have to get that resolve. Open a loop in people's minds that only your sermon can solve. When it comes to business, when someone clicks on your video, what are you saying in those initial seconds to get them to realize this is a video worth watching? Or if you do written content, what is in the first paragraph that makes them go, I have to read the rest of this because I got to know where this all goes. So give people an out, they'll lean in closer, invite them into an opportunity, don't shame them into action, and then open a loop that only your content can solve. Those three things are some of the things that come to mind when I think about what I learned in ministry that still applies to business. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Of these three things, what are your favorite things that you might take action on? And I also want to invite you to attend my free workshop called Turn What You Know Into Dough. Discover how to make your first $1,000 per month in your online business on autopilot in the background of your life. We teach principles like this, but also the 4 key elements of your online business, how they all fit together, how to put them together and make that first $1,000 a month consistently. It's free. It's on demand. You can watch it today. It's at lanesebring.com/workshop. And I also think this playlist will help you take the next steps from the video we just watched.